I've been trying to think of a game that put me through as many emotions as Firewatch. Uncharted had my heart racing and made me genuinely laugh out loud, but Firewatch brought out the entire range. I was thoughtful, curious, laughing, spooked, and even genuinely scared at times. This is a special game, and I want more like it. Now lately I felt disconnected from many video games. So many going through the same old motions and old mechanics of points, leveling up, collecting loot, side quests, following points on a map, and never having to actually think about anything. That all seems like busy work, training and putting in all this effort for what? To watch a digital version of yourself get stronger? I've been yearning for a game that hooks me, engages me, makes me feel something, and that I genuinely can't stop playing, but try to slow down the pace so it lasts longer. Like a great book. Experiencing the story the first time is always the best. The Firewatch's story hooked me in a surprising way. The initial press on the game highlighted its beautiful vistas and sense of humor through dialogue, so I was excited to play a goofy romp through the woods with a bit of mystery tacked on. But I was surprised by the weight of the story. It deals with real-life issues that aren't easily black and white. It deals with how we cope with those issues. Even if we feel we're in the wrong, we have to move on. Making choices throughout the intro had me empathizing with the character immediately and added much depth to the characterization. When the story picks up with gameplay, I appreciated that the environments and NPCs I interacted with were as new to the character as they were to me. We were discovering this story together from the same footing. The experiences my character spoke about were choices I had made earlier in the game, further grounding and engaging me with this character. As far as the actual gameplay goes, the majority of it is spent walking around absolutely gorgeous environments, listening to nature sounds, doing some climbing, and reporting what you see. I highly recommend playing with headphones or in a similarly immersive situation to get the most out of it. The environments are cartoonish and realistic at the same time, but it's the color that stars here. The supersaturation envelops you in its world, and the dynamic shifts between glorious afternoon yellow, toasty sunset orange, and icy blue nights give the game great variety. Only seeing hands and nature becomes incredibly immersive. There are no humans to look unnatural and break the spell. It's mostly beautiful landscapes that sway and creak as the wind blows around you, telling its own story and adding another layer. It controls well enough, with climbing and walking having a nice weight that adds to the first-person experience. The performance issues many spoke of were greatly exaggerated. They're noticeable enough that nearly every review had to report them, which resulted in an echo chamber that made them seem much worse than they actually are. The animation does get choppy at times, and I had one instance of dialogue repeating, but luckily this is not a game that relies on reflexes or timing. The performance is noticeable in some parts, but absolutely did not hinder my enjoyment. Perhaps hearing so much about them beforehand had me expecting far worse, and that might have worked in my favor. You traverse around a map large enough to fit the locations it needs and provide a sense of travel between those areas. You are hiking, after all. You generally head down forested corridors to each different area, but the game opens up as much as it can. It provides invisible walls, some more realistic than others, and there was an instance where I took a shortcut down a small hill, and although it was just a few inches from the path, the game was not designed for me to get off that rock, so I had to retrace my steps and come down the proper way. There are a few options to the paths you can take, which helps the realism of being out in the woods, but it's definitely not an open world. Overall, I still got the sense like I was exploring the great outdoors. Now, after introducing you to the mechanics, location, and main NPC you'll be speaking with for most of the game, the story kicks off nicely. Seeds are sown, and there's a sense of mystery as answers are never given immediately. It's a masterful slow burn of storytelling. It's a strong testament to the game's engagement and storytelling that, even though I knew enough about the game's mechanics and limitations to logically explain away these feelings, I still felt genuine fear and suspense while playing. I knew there just had to be some kind of happy ending, yet I still feared death or tragedy along the way. I knew there would be no enemies or bears in certain areas, but I still peered around corners and constantly checked behind me near the climax. The story is fairly short. You could finish it in 3 to 4 hours, and you could take longer if you explore and collect more. The story ramps up dramatically towards the finish and speeds towards a climax that is unfortunately a little flat to what came before it. The explanation had less weight than I expected, but in its own way, it still fit with the game's theme. Like the performance issues mentioned before, the unexpected ending did not deter from my enjoyment. Can you tell I love this game? I want more games like this. A dramatic series or a film may evoke the same emotions and response, but it goes deeper in a video game done right. To control the character, to look out of their eyes, is something different altogether. This is the kind of game I didn't know I was looking for, and I want plenty more of. If you're looking for an engaging story that digs deep with plenty of charm, look no further than Firewatch.